Okay, welcome to the Crow Discovery Project. I'm actually going to cover a few things that people have been asking me, and I'm going to expose a new way that chemtrailing is going on. But first, I need to address the theft of my clips. It's getting out of hand. There are whole channels that have been put up that have just downloaded and re-uploaded my clips. There are folks running ads on my work, changing the titles, removing any way for people to know that I shot this to get a hold of me, which is a pretty important thing because I've been contacted by so many people that have allowed me to further what I understand about things, and I don't appreciate this. So I'm just going to say this as simply as I can. I have no desire to file copyright claims, but I have had it. If you're running Crow 777 clips, I'm not even going to bother to notify you anymore. I spent hours the other day asking people to remove my footage. I got some FUs back, I got ignored, and I got some people that told me I have no right to my own work. So that's it. If you're running Crow 777 clips, take them down, because if I have to do this, I'll set aside a whole day. It's just, there's no way I'm going to watch my work be retitled and your agenda placed on it and edited in clever ways. So there it is, fair warning. Anyhow, let's move along. Okay, now for something a little more enlightening as we get into it. The moving finger writes, and having writ moves on, nor all your piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all your tears wash out a word of it. And that inverted bowl they call the sky, whereunder crawling cooped we live and die, lift not your hands to it for help, for it as impotently moves as you or I. As you know, I look to old writings and multicultural writings. I think they have a lot to offer us in terms of knowing things. But let's jump in. First, I want to address telescopes and equipment. Many people have been asking me what happened. So this was the scope that I had acquired. It was outside the funding. The funding covered the camera and the telephoto lens. This thing failed. It failed once. I did a return. It came back. The very first time I powered it up, it failed again. People came out, technician, and we tried to revive it, and it just fried. The problem here is Meade, well, let me say it this way. Meade was one of the premier scope builders on the planet, and they're having problems now with the larger scopes. A lot of these parts are made in China, and I don't want to badmouth these guys. I mean, the scope had the potential to be the premier scope, the functionality, the optics, what it could do, and it was mind-boggling. But the problem is these scopes are not going to last. So many people ask me when they're going to buy their first scope. This is what I'm going to say. If you're buying something smaller than 8 inches, I think this is maybe less of a concern for you. But if you're going for that big scope, do your homework. Go into the user groups, go online, find people who have purchased the scope that you're interested in and find out how it's worked out for them. Do your homework. Avoid things that were made in China. Which is not an easy thing to do at this point. But that's about what I can tell you right now. In the old days, I would have just pointed you towards Meade, and that's no longer going to be the case. And I will be upgrading shortly, and it will not be a Meade. I did a lot of research to get where I'm going, and I'm not going to talk about that model because of the way that the Meade failed, which brings me to solar. You have seen recently the clip I did on the Eclipse, which was solar work. I was recently funded again to specifically upgrade my solar filming capability, and as you can see here, surface detail, prominences. I'm going to be jumping into the ring with solar work. There's a lot to see and a lot to know, and it also allows me to have targets to film when I do not have decent nighttime targets. We've always got the sun when you can see it. So let me jump to the next thing. Okay, so I also want to address, as many people have been asking me about the crowdsourced funding that went on. So 6 months into my channel, people had been saying that I should try to crowdsource funding for upgrades of equipment so that I could have better equipment and present better video. 6 months in, I finally decided to do this. It's a lot of work, but I did do it, and that funding paid for the Nikon camera and the telephoto lens outright. And so I want to thank everybody who supported me and contributed. And I want to mention, I owe you guys a debt. I have this equipment in my hands now. I have this ability, and I will not forget the debt that I owe. And I will put in the work. I will do the work and put in the editing hours and everything else that goes with it to put this equipment to good use and try to further what we know. Which jumps me to my next topic. As many are aware, my clips have been covered in many of the news agencies around the world, and besides the Examiner, and I owe an apology to the Examiner, they did the best job, and my followers were most impressed with Roz's articles from the Examiner, and unfortunately I confused them and said that they had gotten most of their article wrong. That was incorrect, and I apologize to the Examiner. But I am going to throw my hat into the ring and try to become a journalist so that I can cover my own work. And if that goes well and I'm able to pull it off, I hope that my subs and followers will come along for the ride and watch my articles and follow me there. So I'm reading a list as I go down to answer things. Okay, the other thing is sunrises and sunsets. There's been a lot of stuff posted lately about objects near the sun at sunrise and sunsets, and a lot of reports from all over the planet, and I'm going to offer up some images and video when I talk about chemtrailing, that people are not seeing the sunset and sunrise because the chemtrailing is so heavy at these times. So I think it would be cool if someone put up an online repository where people could upload just sunrise and sunset images and show what they capture, tell where they are on the planet. I think there's a lot to be known there. And I will also add, people are posting images of objects near the sun, which is why I think it's also a good reason to start pointing your camera that way and see what we can come up with. This image that you're looking at now, a dear friend of mine in the East posted. She's been filming sunrises and sunsets, and she's catching objects. This is one of about 4 or 5. She has some white orb-looking things, and I may post those at a later date. But let me move along. Okay, so that brings me to the new observations that I've been making on chemtrails. I've had the telephoto for quite a while, and since I got the telephoto, I've only had two occasions to film persistent chemtrails that we've grown to recognize. What's going on now is this. This plane is just over 40,000 feet, and notice that the chemtrail is not very persistent, but when you look at it magnified, you can tell it's just billowing stuff out. And as you can see, this is a 360 view of the sky. The whole sky is closed with this familiar look, and this was done by probably 3 or 4 planes. What they're doing now is putting planes that are way up there, 38, 40,000 feet sometimes. They're spraying very heavily. The trail is not persistent, and it closes the sky like this in a matter of 2 hours or something like that. It's very quick, maybe even quicker. At times we have noticed at the nighttime that we go out to look at the stars, and then we come out again and there's no stars to be seen. The sky is closed, and these planes are flying at night. Here's another shot of one of the planes that is way up there. This is fully zoomed in with the telephoto. This is an editing zoom that I'm doing here. And I'll show you how close we can get. I'm about to put a doubler on my telephoto, so I'll be able to get darn near as close to these things as I do with my telescope. It's just impossible to get that close, to track them with the scope. This is what the plane looks like. Now, I looked up a few of them, and you can do this. Put in flight radar as your search term. I think one of them is Flight Radar 24, and there's another one. I forget what it's called. But you can try to ID these planes. It'll give you the altitude. One of them was called Bombardier something, and I did a quick search on that plane, and others had posted that plane was chemtrailing. But anyhow, that seems to be the new way that they're doing it here in Southern California. And let me see here. I'm looking at the list. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk quick about how we know things. So if you don't directly experience something, you're taking it on faith. That's all there is to it. And if you use the media or TV, you're using an agenda-ridden source for your facts, and that's not cool. And for the whole alien UFO thing, I would point out, every time you turn on the TV and they cover these things, it's the same old tired Roswell, Bentwaters, just the same handful of things that have been rehashed over and over. What I have done is thrown it all out, and I'm starting clean. I don't believe anything from the space agencies. They've given us too much bad information. I don't believe anything from media outlets. I go out and I look for myself, and that's how I know things. The whole Google Moon thing, there's people posting buildings and all these other things on Google Moon. Well, I can tell you for a fact, those of us who have had access to really big scopes, even bigger than the ones I've shown you here, know for a fact that this is just not the case. I don't know if there's a lunar wave blocking the view, and that could be part of it, but what I can tell you is all these coordinates that keep getting passed around for massive spaceships on the moon, they're not there. When you have a big scope, you just don't see them. And so, you got to be realistic about these things, and you've got to try to get first-hand information or from trusted sources, and not just some space agency says something, so that's the gospel. I have thrown this type of information out. And in closing, I'd like to send my condolences to the people of Canada. It looks like they're going to be treated just as badly as we are down here, and I consider us to be in distress down here. Things have just gotten so far out of hand, and that puts a responsibility on those of us who understand the lies that are being perpetrated to help out those who have not caught on yet. So there it is. Cheers. And please, guys, don't steal my clips and do crazy things with them. I really don't want to have to do copyright violations. So there it is.